I'm Phil here with James. I wrecked this ChampCar here a few weeks ago, and we're going to run through a few of the safety items that held up. A lot of times safety is not as much our concern. We're focused on performance a lot of times, but we thought it'd be a good idea to run through how some of the safety items held up and maybe do what we're going to replace, what we're going to keep. First thing we're going to start off with are the nets. You checked out the window net. You know, the whole purpose of this thing is really to keep you held into the car, keep your limbs and whatnot from flying out and stuff coming in as well. Did a visual inspection on this, and this thing's not really stressed out or any frays or anything. So this is something we're going to move along to our next build. Next would be belts. These things obviously have a 5-year life that a lot of you are aware of, but in an impact like this, they are going to get stretched. And these are now going to be replaced. These are no longer any good for our use.
Yeah, it's, you know, the belts like this, it's every time they get an impact, and the safety gear is intended to absorb some of that energy so that it doesn't it's not all your body and internal organs. I was in a wreck at Watkins Glen, and I had the opportunity to get hit 3 consecutive times. And while I was sitting in that car, and every time I was getting hit and launched forward, the first hit I was nice and tight in the car, and then I was flopping around in the car, and by the next hit I'm so loose in the car because these things had stretched so much, and I was wondering, wow, how's this going to end up? So these things, if this was an IMSA race, first of all, not only would they not last 5 years, they'd last maybe 1 to 2 years just because of the use of the net. So or the belt, for everybody, it's good to inspect and make sure they're not frayed. But after it's been in an impact like this thing is absolutely going to be replaced. If I was at an IMSA event or a pro event, I wouldn't be able to leave the track with this belt. It would be cut on site, so that there would be no way that I could reuse it. So it's a serious deal. Don't reuse the nets. Likewise, you know, I wasn't in the car. I've been in a couple of these before though, and this, you know, these seats, and the reason we use these seats, this is an O&P composite seat, is again, this thing will take some of that energy. It will move with you so that it's not just all on your body. But unfortunately, and again, you roll how many times?
6.5-ish, somewhere in there.
So brutal roll, and this thing back and forth, and that's what I can do. That's what I can do fairly easily with this. But the reality of it is, this thing is flexing, and once it moves so far, and how far does it move? A good single solid side hit, an in-car video will show this thing moving 6 or 8 inches. So that's an extreme amount of movement. Well, like anything that you flex back and forth, and especially composite material, you're going to start weakening that, and the seat's no longer going to have the same structure it did. I don't know if you can get a view down here. When I look at the base of this seat is on sliders, which we do a lot of time in ChampCar. Different people, different sizes, and you can bet not only is the O&P seat going to be replaced, but the sliders and the side mounts will also be replaced as well because they're fatigued.
Yeah. How would an aluminum seat hold up to something like that?
You know, aluminum has some give, and some of those aluminum seats have the reinforcements to take out some of that flex. But again, like in that Watkins Glen hit where it was 3 hits, you know, I think you get 1 deformation with aluminum and then you're kind of stuck. And so, you know, I love the containment of an aluminum seat, but I don't love the second hit of it in an aluminum seat. And personally, I will never drive with one. So, gosh, what else? What other safety gear? We've got side nets, which we don't have on this car. Side nets when your body is up, you know, we've got a head restraint seat, so your head's contained, but if you're on that second impact and you've already rolled 4 times, you're starting to flop around in that seat. Those side nets is what help hold the seat in place and then keep you from going actually outside the containment of the seat with your helmet and your head.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of flopping around, I mean, I was flopping around on this thing pretty good. You know, the cage held up and did its job. You know, obviously that's a critical safety component of the car. There was a little bit of deformation, but you know, you can imagine, you know, my helmet being about here, and you know, I'm flopping around all over the place in here, and took a pretty good smack against the A-pillar bar over here. You know, you can see on here there's some red paint, and well, unfortunately, along with a little chip there, that means my nice Stilo helmet is getting replaced. But also, super fortunately, my head's not. So that's a pretty good thing for me. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, it's, you know, it stinks, right? That's a nice paint job. That's a nice helmet. That's a nice paint job. There's over $2 grand in that. It's going to be a nice decoration for your shelf, I guess.
Yeah, it's an interesting trophy. So.
While we're talking about safety gear, cage is of course critical to any build, and we're super happy with how the cage held up. You know, nice welds, but you can see this side is pushed down. You can see the road rash from the asphalt on the side. This is obviously a point on the car that hit, and the chassis certainly moved a couple inches, and our cage actually moved as well. Now, if you design the cage with proper load paths, the movement on that should be minimal. And in our case, I think we only got an inch and a half right at the front, which is, you know, not the most critical part of the structure. We usually think of the roll hoop as the piece that absolutely has to stay there. That's kind of over the driver's head. But this movement, the stretching of the belts, all that kind of put Phil's head in the position where it hit it's certainly not ideal for a driver's head to hit that, but that's why we wear helmets. So I guess everything did do its job, including the Hans, right?
It did, yeah. You know, on the note of the Hans, you know, you got the tethers that come around, and you know, I'm gonna have to send my Hans in to get recertified and checked out. May not be able to be used again. I mean, they're gonna put that thing through its test to see if it can even be recertified, and you know, maybe a new Hans as well. But once again, I'd rather have that safety equipment and all myself intact. So.
So we're replacing some expensive stuff. We're starting with replacing an expensive car, shell, cage work, all that. We're replacing a $800, $900 seat. This thing was a couple years old, and we're getting a new one. We're replacing belts that are a few $100. What can we say? We've got a fire system in here. So when we think about what's important in wrecks, fire is one of those things that luckily didn't happen to us, but we spent the money. We put a Lifeline fire system in the car. That's about a $700 system. It's a Novec system because we wanted the best. And there'll be a visual inspection on that bottle, but if the visual inspection passes, we're gonna reuse that. We're gonna take that $700 piece out of this car and we're gonna put it in the new car because it is absolutely fine. We didn't use it. We're lucky we didn't use it. Why didn't we use it? At the back of the car, we have an ATL fuel cell. So a lot of these Champ cars use stock tanks. We're allowed 2 extra gallons, so we're gonna use that. We're gonna take advantage of that by putting a cell in the car that holds it. Whether or not you have a fuel cell, and I'm glad we did because that contains the fuel. That's the point. It has a bladder internally. It will not let fuel leak out. But it also fills very fast, which we like in pit stops, and it fills fast because it evacuates air quickly with the discriminator valve. Now, when this car ends up upside down, we have a check ball on the discriminator valve, so my fuel is not just out there flowing out on the ground ready to be ignited by the hot brake rotor by the car that goes by that has a spark or an exhaust puff or whatever it is. So, you know, a fuel cell is probably a major point and a major reason we didn't have to use that fire system. While not specifically a safety related device or intended as a safety device, I think it's important to point out that our battery ended up kind of held in by the battery cables, as the battery mount itself that was holding it in actually ripped the metal out of the car. So if you think about a battery, and we had a lightweight Optima battery in this car, lightweight car size battery, it's still a 35 pound battery. Yeah. So a heavy chunk of lead to be released because it rips free and is bouncing around your car. So, you know, these plastic battery boxes that I see some people use, make sure there's a metal retention system that is bolted and reinforced.
Reinforced, for sure.
We're bolted to the car, we're just not reinforced. We just rip that right out of the sheet metal of the car. So think about things like that when you're building a car. So expensive for us, right? You know, lots of hours, lots of money in this car, but our driver's okay. I'm certainly fortunate to have Phil feeling good and back in the office. That's why we invest in safety equipment, right? We're racing cheap cars, but our lives aren't cheap. I know Phil was back at work on Monday, and that's being able to carry on with life as normal, even when there's something this big that happens, I think is super important. So we'll peel off what we can. You know, it's always part of a post-rec analysis. Learn what you can, make it better. I think we've certainly picked out a couple of things from this. Hopefully, we've showed you things that are important that you can learn from this. Learn from our mistakes. You don't have to do it yourself to know how to make your car safer. And let's be safer out there. Good.